You can use homemade air dry clay to create the cutest cactus plants ever. I'll also show you how to paint them with watercolor, but you can use acrylic. I've even heard that you can use nail polish on this air dry clay. This tutorial is super easy with great results, and check out the link above to make your 3-ingredient homemade clay, which is what you see me using here. Wedging the clay in my hand, I start by making a container that's very similar to the shape of a marshmallow. I'm rolling it and tapping it on my surface to create a roundish cylindrical shape. Homemade air dry clay is a little crumbly, so I'm gonna make my shapes pretty small, but you could do this with Play-Doh, you could do this with kiln-fired clay, and you're gonna press in to create an indentation where your cactus plant is gonna be attached. Once you're happy with your container, make a plant that is appropriate for the size of the container that you created. If you don't have cactus plants at your house, mine are all at school, you can Google different shapes to go off of, and I'm gonna keep mine pretty basic and do your typical cactus plant with like one arm. Small shape extending off of clay is fragile, so you're going to be attaching this for air dry clay. You're just going to be using a little bit of water. You're using regular kiln fired clay. You would score, slip, and blend just like you would with any other attachment. This homemade modeling clay doesn't blend the way kiln fired clay or other modeling clay does, so I'm using a paintbrush to blend it, but don't use too much water or it will make your clay kind of dissolve and fall apart. And just put a little bit down in your container, press, and you're gonna let this dry overnight before adding color. Oh, I definitely wanna add a flower to this. And what you see me doing with my paintbrush is just trying to smooth out the clay the best that I can with the material that I have. So to attach a flower, I'm just gonna squish together a smaller piece of clay. I'm gonna check to make sure the size makes sense, and then I'm gonna use my paintbrush again to attach. Super cute, so easy. I'm gonna make a whole bunch of these. This cactus plant's gonna be a little bit more challenging because I wanna do the circles that attach and get smaller as they go up, but I already know that this particular clay is fragile, and so these small pieces are gonna be fragile, but the good thing about this clay is all you have to do is glue it back together. So if I break it, spoiler alert, I do, just glue is all you need to attach your pieces back to the way you wanted them to be. When sculpting vertical shapes, finding balance is always important. So finding my shapes and interlocking them in a way where they won't fall over is definitely something that is going to be important. And I do want to put this flower on the smallest one, and you can see my whole cactus plant wanting to collapse. But I'm going to get that flower on there because I think it's such a fun flash of a different color that I'm excited to paint. As it dries and the moisture evaporates, it should be sturdy after tomorrow. My third and final cactus plant, I'm gonna do the most basic shape of them all, and I'm gonna start with the same shape container, although looking back now, I wish I would have done one that was square, and instead of rolling it on the tabletop, I would just hit it on 4 sides to create that square-like shape. So put that on my list for next time. And yep, this cactus is crazy easy. It's like just a blob of clay, like a semicircle, one of those small little cactus plants with the spikes on it. I'm attaching with water, and it looks pretty simple and basic right now, and it is. But I'm gonna put a flower on it, and when I paint it, it's gonna really come to life. so easy, so cute. I could just make like hundreds of these and make a cool cactus garden. This modeling clay needs to dry overnight before you can paint them. I'm using watercolor to paint my cactus plants today, but if you're interested in learning how to paint acrylic paint on this clay, click the link above and I will walk you through that. Watercolor paint travels because of all the water that you use when applying it. My recommendation is to use a very small amount of water so that your paint doesn't run down in areas that you don't want it. And you can always put more than one layer to make it the color or darkness that you would like. I'm holding mine in my hand as I paint so that the green doesn't like seep down into the container, but that I have lots of control over how much water and paint I'm putting on here. I will be adding more detail to this cactus plant, so whatever plant you made or whatever you're painting, do one base color first before adding your detail. Less water is better in this situation. I'm going to let this dry for a couple minutes before I add any more detail. I'm going to carefully paint my flower a really pretty pink color that I think goes super well with my green cactus. And staying inside the lines is super important, and this will drip down your cactus. So be very controlled in how much water you use and how you hold it so that the paint dries without dripping everywhere. Now I'm going to add some stripes to give my cactus more detail. If you want your colors to bleed into itself, you could paint this while your first layer of green is wet, but I want my stripes to be a little bit more defined, so I'm painting them when this is dry, or at least most of the way dry. You can see that the color's bleeding a little bit into the green area that hasn't dried yet, which is okay, because it's going to make my plant look more dynamic. But I do want to capture the essence of the stripes, and so you could wait until it's completely dry if you want more control. Using watercolor, layering is key to get darker value. So I'm just going to put a darker line of green on top of the line that I've already painted so that it has a nice contrasted effect. Very happy with this. I feel like this cactus plant just came to life with those stripes. Now it's time to decide what to do with my container. And I have this really gorgeous burnt sienna color that I think is going to tie my pink and my greens together. And then I have to decide, am I going to add decoration to this or keep it simple? I love that watercolor really emphasizes the textures of the clay. So if there's cracks in your clay, don't stress about that. You're doing a cactus in a clay pot, so it's natural that it would have like a clay-like texture to it. The line of where the cactus meets the container is really important. So stay inside the lines, and I would recommend making sure your green is dry before adding your pot color so that the two colors don't bleed together. I think I'm going to keep this container simple because I'm really happy with how everything came together. Using the same technique, I'm going to paint the rest of my cactus garden. And while doing this, I did break this one plant, but I'm just going to glue it back together, and it actually makes it easier to kind of paint both sections separately. These cactus plants were so easy to make and really therapeutic. I feel like I have this beautiful, vibrant little garden that I've created that I can't kill because I don't overwater them. I also have a vision of mailing these to friends and family when that's safe, of course. And I just think this is a beautiful and uplifting way to express yourself during this uncertain time that we're all going through. If you love art, don't forget to subscribe. I can't tell you how important your support is. And check out my website, thatartteacher.com, for lesson plans, student examples, and everything that's been in my brain as I've been teaching.